All right, Bang. Today is Wednesday. It is January 19th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. The Debunk, the Mythbusters episode.
Yeah, that's what we're doing today.
On the old moon landing. Not a two-parter, but if you didn't listen yesterday,
It's a two-parter.
But it's different format.
Yeah.
So listen yesterday. We talked about why people think the moon landing was fake. And today we're going to talk about why it's not.
Yeah, why people have an answer for everything. I was like, I'm always like, what's going on there? Like, that's kind of like the way my brain works. These explanations of the 5 things laid out yesterday seem so like straightforward and explainable. It makes me glad that I was never a moon landing was fake guy.
Really?
Yeah. To me, it seems that straightforward. But again, I'm a moron. So if you have like these people who are being like the moon landing's fake for X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then you do like 10 seconds of research and it gets debunked. And you're like, like I believe this guy now. So maybe, who knows? Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. But we'll go through all 5 of those right now. Or in this episode to make sure that to see what people think.
Yeah, I mean, that's everything at this point, right?
It's hard to know what the truth is.
And someone explained to me too, like it's all like just media in general. It's all just a PR machine, and whoever can shape the best narrative is winning.
That really does seem like it's it. Yeah, whoever has the most money behind it can buy off the most people, and then they get to shape the narrative. And they say that throughout history. Like whoever is victorious gets to write history.
Yeah, didn't Jefferson? Something about what was that story you told in the pod before? He like bought the newspaper company or something.
Oh, there were there's several stories like that throughout history, but like it was one about the election, and it was Adams against Jefferson, and they each had like their papers, and they were writing these like, Jefferson. They would like talk about like the I can't forget his Sally Hemings, which was his, we'll say, slave wife, like his whatever she was. She was a slave that he had many, many children with. They had some kind of relation. So like that got leaked, and then Jefferson countered, being like, "Well, Adams is a hermaphrodite, so like he's got a dick and a vagina. Do with that what you will." And there's always been like people in the press, but like especially if you all the way back through history, like you don't really hear much about all the people that the Roman Empire conquered. It's just like, they were savages and we conquered them. And it's like, well, maybe they were just regular people who just didn't want to subscribe to your thing, but they get to write the history because they won. And I think that's kind of the way things always go. And now we're just, we're kind of living in it. Maybe we're more aware of it now than we were when we were kids growing up reading the history books. Sure. Yeah.
I would say so. Before we kick it off, though, we do want to talk about wood grooming. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see these products in front of us. It's Barstool's new grooming line. So it's called Wood, W-O-U-L-D, Wood. I would.
You would.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
I would. I do.
Yeah, you do. So
I use it every day.
There you go.
Yeah.
The shampoo and conditioner, right?
Shampoo, conditioner. I have the body wash. Both are good. You smell good. Get a lot of compliments on it. And I don't know if anybody else is like this. I need a lather. I need a good lather, especially with the hair. I like to get it all soapy, foamy up. That's how I judge it. Big time lather with wood.
Yeah. It's called Golden Hour, which is cool. That's like the name of the scent.
That is nice.
Yeah. Wood is a new men's grooming line offering products across hair, body, beard, and shave. Wood is for those who dare to try new things and are always planning their next adventure. Wood works and smells as good as it looks. So shop Wood at getwood.com or get it at your local CVS. That's getwood, WOULD.com. Go grab some product. All right, the moon landing. I feel like I'm dragging on this intro, but I actually am curious to know, has conspiracy theories and talking about this kind of shit like changed you, the way you look at it? Because I feel like it's so much different than when we started this. Maybe not. I mean, people are always crazy.
Yeah.
Like, because now, like, people have gotten too crazy where it's like, if you even, like, hey, we do it for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
And for, and, like, I'm sure there's little ones where, like, oh, I could maybe buy into that a little, but, like, people have entirely lost their minds.
Well, I mean, and we we did a few of these in the very beginning in 2019 about like there's conspiracy about how Finland's not even a real place.
Yes.
That it's like
I think that might have been the first one.
It was very early.
That or the flat Earth was one of the first ones.
And we kind of made fun of both of those because they are so preposterous, and other ones are more believable, I would say. And I don't know if it's changed my brain, but I am like a skeptical person regardless. I kind of feel like if somebody's really selling something, then they have like an agenda or something. They're getting something out of it. So I always try to like poke holes and then like try to hear both sides and fall where I fall. And I guess like I would love to be a moon landing is fake guy if I felt that was the truth. I just after doing a little bit of research, I can't believe that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's something but I think my brain has always been that way, being like, what are you up to? Yeah. And it doesn't matter who's saying it. Like I used to have trouble in school because I would just be like, why are you teaching me that? And then I would just decide like, I don't need to learn that. Yeah. I'm going to look at this map for the rest of class and like not listen to a word you say. And I've just always kind of been like pushed back against whatever the narrative is from the authority figure. And sometimes you get in line because it makes sense. Other times you don't. So
I feel you. It's just, I don't know. People are so fucking insane now, man.
The flat earth and the Finland thing. And then, some of the ones with the vaccine are crazy too, where it's like, oh, it's a microchip. It's making your arm magnetic, like things like that. It's just like, there are discussions to be had, but then you hear like the insane people and you're just like, oh my God, you can't even begin to like listen to them for 1 second. It kind of ruins the whole debate when it doesn't matter what the subject is, but when people are so crazy, like you just can't even talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel you, man. But all right, today's about the moon landing.
The moon landing. So we had the 5 kind of big ones yesterday, and we'll just go through one at a time. So remember the first one I think I said was about like why is the flag waving? Mm-hmm. Like space is a vacuum. There's no atmosphere, so there's no wind or anything like that on the moon. Why would they have these photos of the flag appearing to wave and be like at full, not full mast, but like just fully erect?
Yeah.
Well, it's fucking so simple. And if you really look at the pictures closely, there's a horizontal bar. So they wanted that flag for that image because like you're spending billions of dollars in the 60s to get to the moon. You're going to do everything fucking right, including the photo ops. And they're like, if we have this flag planted on the moon and it's not like out and waving so everybody can see it, we think people will feel less patriotic about that. They want to see the flag. So they had a flagpole and they had another horizontal beam coming off. So it was like it's hanging, so it's just erect. So you could see the flag. Like they did that on purpose. They made a special flag with an extra loop at the top, put a pole through there, stand it up, get the photo ops. Because most importantly, if you want to, evoke, the reason for evoking emotion and patriotism is really to evoke more funding. So if you get the right photo op, you'll be able to like, look at how awesome we are. Let's fund the next mission, and away you go. So they wanted to get that right. So the reason the flag's waving is they just made a different type of flagpole. And if you really look at those pictures closely of the flag, you can like absolutely see it.
That's smart.
It's very smart.
Imagine if that picture was just a flaccid flag. That would be so sad.
Yeah. And be like,
Yeah, like you'd be able to make out like a couple stars and like the blue and some white and
like
some
I think that's our flag. Might be Chile's though, too.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
So
okay.
Yeah, that one makes sense, right?
For sure.
Piece of cake, super easy. Okay, the next one. People are always like, you're on the fucking moon, man. Why aren't there any stars in these photos? And that one, to me, yesterday, I was like, yeah, what the fuck? Why aren't there any stars in those photos? And then it's like, you read one thing, a couple of things, and it's like, oh, actually, that makes a lot of sense. So, cameras can only take in so much light, right? So if they turn the brightness up too much, and especially cameras back then, so the cameras just weren't as good. So if they can only take in so much light, you had to like change the exposure so you could get the images of the spacecraft and the surface of the moon and things like that. But if it's emitting so much light off the surface of the moon, off the flag, off this landing craft, off of this, it's going to be unable to take in the images of the stars. And if you, a way to kind of think about it is if you're outside in winter in Chicago or someplace in the north where there's just snow on the ground, but you have the bright sun, you're not going to be seeing like fucking anything because it's just so bright and it's kind of blocking out like the rest of anything else in the picture. So like these dull stars out in the distance are basically, it's like we talked about yesterday with Harry and his telescope. It's light pollution because you have all this light reflecting off the surface of the moon from the sun that it kind of just distorts your ability to see the stars while you're on the surface of the moon. And while you're able to see it, like if you're in the spacecraft, like orbiting, once you're actually on the moon looking out, and especially with like your eyes might be able to see it, but you're going to have a very hard time with a camera picking up any stars from the surface just because of the way the light reflects off the surface of the moon. Have you ever heard of that thing? Speaking of this always pops in my mind when I think about stars, and I don't understand it. It's one of these things that breaks my brain. Have you ever heard of this guy, John Wheeler? He's like a physicist.
No, I have not.
So stars, like they're so far away, right? They're incomprehensibly far away, like millions of light years away. That means that you're seeing something that might not even exist. Like that photon is traveling through space at the speed of light and entering your eye. But he came up with this thing, and it's like, I can't explain it. I don't understand it, but it's called delayed choice. It basically means like that photon that's leaving that star 30 million years ago would not have been emitted unless it had a place to go. So you had to be born in order for that photon to leave to reach your eye, but like you're not even on the planet yet, not even close. Like Earth's not even really formed. But without you existing and looking at that star, that photon would have nowhere to go. It's called delayed choice.
That's fucking crazy.
It's so fucking crazy that it blows my mind. Like I feel like it can't possibly be true, but then this guy John Wheeler, like you can find YouTubes of him explaining it, and it's just like I understand what you're saying, but I can't understand it, and it just breaks my brain. So that's a whole different story. We could probably get someone in here smarter than me to explain that, but Jesus Christ, like
that is wild.
It's a mind blowing, and it's like through the laws of physics, like it has to be true.
Yep.
So, but it's like it can't be true. How can something need me to exist in order for it to leave, but it left 30 million years before I was even born? Explain that. I can't. Anyways, so the next thing, conspiracy 3, another point that they always bring up, the shadows are wrong. How can if there's only one light source on this whole rock, the moon, emanating, and it's all coming from one direction from the sun, how can you have different shadows? The moon itself is a light source. So the sunlight comes in, hits this white kind of gray surface of the moon, and reflects it off in a different direction. So you might be able to you'll have the one shadow coming and hitting the astronaut or the lunar landing craft, hitting you and creating a shadow from the sun. But you're likely also going to have so much light emitting off the surface of the sun or off the surface of the moon that it's going to cast a shadow in another direction. So that's one that's like, oh, like that's really easy too. And it's like, of course the moon is a light source. Anybody who's ever been out in like a remote area, I'm talking even like St. Charles out by, my parents, there's a way different like level of brightness in the night sky when there's a full moon versus the little like thumbnail sliver. Like there's like, it's just darker. So like the moon, of course, is a light source. So if you're on the surface of it, of course it's going to cast shadows in different directions. But like, unless you stop to think about it, you're like, hey, what the fuck? There must be a soundstage. And that's kind of like what I thought yesterday. Was like if there's more light sources, if there's only one light source, there should only be one shadow direction. But we forgot about the moon itself.
It's such a mind fuck when the moon is so bright that like it is like a light source. Like,
big time.
I feel it doesn't happen. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, obviously.
I feel like that happens in winter more too.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that happened over like Christmas break because we had like a little dusting, and then you just look out and you can like see your dog in the distance because the light hits the snow and everything reflects off. And then if it was a week later and everything's melted and the moon is like, what do you call it when there is no moon? What stage is that?
Lunar? No.
So there's full moon, quarter moon. Just picture the little sliver moon. Like then you just wouldn't like you just can't see your like to the end of the property line where your dog might be because it's just not there's no light. Yeah. So the moon itself, light surface. Mm-hmm. Duh. All right. So that one piece of cake. The fourth one is like, who the fuck was doing the filming of Neil Armstrong getting off the spacecraft? And it's like, well, you're NASA, kind of same thing with the flag. They had cameras on every single part of that landing craft. So they didn't want to miss a moment. Same thing, spending all this money to go to the moon. We better capture that moment. It's one of the greatest, biggest moments in the history of humanity. They had cameras on all the different legs of the landing craft, the top of it. And if you go through like all the footage, you can see those cameras, working while they're just traveling through space. So like you can see the landing craft itself when it's in orbit of the moon. So there's camera footage from those cameras besides just the moment Neil Armstrong got off the lunar landing craft. But it was just like another one that's like no duh. Probably everybody, if that's like one of your talking points, you should probably give it another 30 seconds of thought and be like, of course they put cameras everywhere. So then the fifth one, the blast off, okay, where if you look at like when things leave Earth, like these, doesn't matter, Bezos, whoever, the amount of energy, like it's the big scene. Have you ever seen Apollo 13? No, you haven't.
Well, we talked about this before. Yeah.
So when you see a rocket launch, it's like this crazy impressive thing. You have these huge jet packs, the fire plume, the smoke, and all the energy that it takes to leave Earth's orbit and get out of this, this gravity field of Earth. Because you have to blast through the atmosphere. You have the gravity. You have all this. You don't have any of that on the surface of the moon. They have no atmosphere to fight through, and they have 20% of the gravity. So the way that they describe the lunar module, and that thing was like very light too. Like they would say that parts of it were like no thicker than a few pieces of tinfoil.
Oh wow.
Okay, yeah, like very thin, very light, and this thing would just kind of drift down and fall to the surface of the moon, almost like a leaf hitting the ground. So it's not going to have this, big landing spot. And conversely, when you're leaving, same thing. You're only going to need a little to get off the surface and kind of blow yourself off until you drift back into orbit, and then you shoot yourself back towards Earth and back towards your craft, your reentry craft that's hovering over. You just don't need to exude that much energy. So there might only be like a footprint. I've seen another person describe it as like, think of you're in a pond, okay, and you sink down to the bottom and you kind of just push yourself lightly back to the top of the surface. You're not leaving like this massive crater from a blast off site because you just didn't need that much. So like you might be able to drift up 10 feet, but you're going to exert a lot more energy trying to dunk a basketball in a basketball court than you would trying to push yourself up from the bottom of a pond. Yeah. And you're just not going to leave like any real resemblance of anything behind because it just didn't take that much energy. So it's like, damn, like those are the big five things. And then the other one, the kind of the bonus one I found while doing the research is that they're saying that, the astronauts probably should have had some radiation poisoning because when you're on the surface of the moon and you don't have Earth's atmosphere and the gravitational pull and the Earth has this like magnetic field, right? These magnetic fields that kind of reflect, and that's where you get like aurora borealis, the northern lights. That's like sun rays skipping off the Earth's atmosphere and making these like cool colors in the sky. Well, you don't have that. So it's just direct blasting the surface of the moon. If you're an astronaut on there, you should probably theoretically get some radiation poisoning. But apparently, like the way, because they have those suits and because they weren't out there for like a week at a time, they're only on the surface of the moon for a few hours.
Yeah.
They didn't have enough exposure to really feel the effects, long-term effects of like radiation poisoning. So those are the five, and then that bonus one, there's 6 main talking points for the moon landing conspiracy people, and they're just like the information's right there.
The stars one too, especially, is interesting because Dude, even Hollywood, they've done fucking space. Like, they would throw some stars there. They know how to make it look good.
Fuck yeah, they do.
You know? So it's like someone would have sat there and looked in the production and be like, hey, we should probably put some stars.
Yeah.
Make it a little more realistic.
And it would almost be like, if they did do that, that would be the conspiracy.
Exactly.
So the fact that there weren't, and they didn't think to put them in, it's like,
it's reverse.
Right, yes, exactly. They just topsy-turvy your whole brain.
Yes, correct.
So, yeah, like I was never a big moon landing person. Listening and going through the different things yesterday made me go, and then today it's like, I'm glad I wasn't one of these people that's been carrying on for years. Like, no wonder Neil Armstrong punched that asshole in the face.
Oh yeah,
because
Buzz Aldrin.
Or Buzz Aldrin, right? Like, no, of course he did. Like, that guy, like, you're an asshole. Yeah, this guy went to the moon, and you're gonna tell him he didn't because there was no stars because you didn't do 1 second research. Bam, punch in the face, and you fucking deserve it.
Yep. All right, are you happy with that, Harry, Lance? Are you guys happy?
Lance has a question.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. I get the camera part too because like
you're a camera guy.
Yeah, camera's supposed to kind of imitate an eye and it does its best it can, but
it can't.
Exactly.
Yeah, like that was like a wake up call for me. Like even like at my apartment now, there's this one tree I fucking hate that blocks my view of the skyline. But even when I try with my phone to take a picture, and it looks like I'm 10,000 miles away from the skyline when I look at it. But I'm looking at it right now. It looks fucking awesome. And then I take a picture, look at my phone. I'm like, it looks like I took it from St. Charles. Like I'm that far west. And it just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, like the camera just cannot accurately tell you what the eye is actually seeing most times. So.
Lance?
Yeah, then I guess my question is, why haven't we gone back?
That's a fair question. I mean, there could be. I was thinking about that myself. Like, why haven't we gone back? Well, it is very expensive. Maybe, and we did win that race, so it's like, you won. Like, we're gonna just keep winning over and over, like. And then, I made the Christopher Columbus analogy. Like, what if no one followed him to America? Or to the Western Hemisphere, and well, maybe part of the reason they don't go is because how are you going to set up a colony if staying on the surface causes radiation poisoning? So if you're going to stay there for a prolonged period of time, you're going to be exposing yourself to all these different things, and maybe they just haven't found like enough reason to go back from a resource perspective. It's almost like, yeah, we got some moon rocks, like those are cool. But, and then, I think we have sent other like landing craft there, just not any humans. So everything that we could do, we probably did with robots, and it's just safer and more effective, cheaper. Could be. Yeah. Are you satisfied with those answers?
Yeah, I am. I am satisfied with them. So thank you. You're right. I'm glad you didn't look too much into this one beforehand.
Yeah.
And weren't a believer.
I know. It would have been a huge waste of time.
Yeah.
And I could say I've never watched like any of these documentaries about it either, because I'm just like, Like, and I also wanted to believe that we were on the surface of the moon, so maybe I am biased against some of these things, just believing them out of hand. But I always thought it was like one of the coolest things that we've ever done. I'm going to be like, nah, we didn't. Yeah. That would suck to be one of those people.
For sure. Well, we might still do room 237. We're not sure. It won't be tomorrow, but
I don't know if room 237 is only about that.
It's about other shit too.
I think it's about all sorts of crazy shit.
Still might be worth a watch.
Yeah. I might just watch it out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, I like The Shining and Kubrick. So.
Me too.
All right then, Chief. Thank you. Hopefully you guys all are satisfied and you guys have a way to believe one way or the other.
Yeah. And if you got different information, hit me up.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for more stuff.
And if you know an expert, we'd be definitely...
We love that.
Yeah.
We love that.
All right, then. That's it, everybody. Thank you for listening. We'll see you all tomorrow.